Questions are coming in, Mr. Wilson, and people are writing in, and we wanted to ask some of the questions that have come in. The first one is why packaging?
Well, packaging, you've got to realize my brother, when he came out here in '38, he just got out of high school, and the first job he got was working with our cousins, the Wilson Paper Company. So he became a salesman for them and was doing very well until he went into service in World War II. You know, he was a pilot, as you all know. And so when the war was over, he came out of service. An interesting story. And Wilson Paper had sort of split a little bit. The brother-in-law, who had been a partner, started his own company. It was called Fry Newmark and Wilson Paper. And both of them wanted my brother to go to work for them. And he didn't know what to do. And so our accountant, who was also a Wilson, said, start your own company, see. So he started Ernest Packaging.
So he played to his strength.
He played to his strength, and that's why he just continued doing what he knew how he did well. And he understood the business. He'd been a salesman, and he really, my brother was terrific guy, capable of all kinds of things. And so he did well.
So that accountant is responsible for all these screens?
Well, I think so. His name was Lou Wilson. He was a wonderful guy, I went to work for him, in fact. Myself, I worked in his accounting office, and it's a great story, you know.
Absolutely.
A lot of you have heard it. When I was going to college, when I was at UCLA in the fall of '41, I needed a job, so I would take the bus from UCLA downtown and work, and in those days, the minimum wage was 40 cents an hour, big. But since I was an accountant, the accountants weren't subject to the minimum wage. So I had to start at 35 cents an hour. So after 3 months, my cousin says to me, he says, oh, Chuck, he says, you guys, you're doing so well, I'm going to raise you to the minimum wage. So I got up to 40 cents an hour. I didn't do well, but at least you'd be surprised what it paid for in those days.
40 cents.
Okay, well, we'll be glad to hire anybody for that. Somehow they don't want to work.
Roll it back. So here's another question. What do you do for fun on the weekends?
Have evil thoughts? No, I play golf, and we have a lot of. My wife and I really, we have a nice social. We've got a lot of good friends. And we like to go out, and we like to, I don't know, just zips by, and then comes Monday, I want to come to work, so that's always good.
Fantastic. Here's a really good question. Were there any difficult times during the history of the company that you could remember that maybe you didn't think the company you were going to make it, and what things did you and your brother do to turn it around?
Well, yeah, there were a lot of difficult times, but I must say that my brother and I were very conservative. We always realized that you have good times and bad times. So we always tried to keep a reserve. When we first started, you got to realize my brother and I and my mother lived in a little apartment on Cochrane down there. And the only one that took anything out of the business was my brother. So we had started saving then, and it grew from that. But and whenever we had bad times, we would be very conservative. We always tried to have a reserve, and we did have some really rough times. And over a period, you never know what's going to happen. And when the minute you're riding really high, that's when the fit hits the shan, So anyway, so that's what I can say. Yes, we had a lot of tough times, but my brother was a terrific businessman, and so he handled this very well, and I supported him very well.
You shared something about your brother that many may not know, and maybe our veterans would appreciate, about his 2 sets of wings.
Oh, yeah. Well, my brother, was in the Air Force, and he became a pilot, and where all the guys had a college degree, he just had his high school graduation. He had to give up a scholarship at the University of Utah because it was 1938, height of the Depression, and he had a mother and a younger brother to support, so he wasn't able to go to college, and that's why he came out here too. Couldn't get any work in Salt Lake at that time. So when he went in, they sent him to Washington State, and he did well. He was so top of his class, and the top guys, they made him pilots, and he thought he was going to go become a navigator, but he became a pilot, and then he was top, so they made him an instructor. So he used to teach B-25s. That was the airplane that flew, it's bombed Tokyo originally, so Billy Mitchell, I guess, was the one that flew it over. And as the pilots started coming back from Europe, then they let them become the instructors, and so then they sent my brother to Corpus Christi, Texas, where he learned to fly Catalinzas, which is a seaplane, and he's got his Navy wings. So my brother had Army wings and Navy wings, and was amazing. And then he went on and did air sea rescue work in the Gulf and anti-submarine patrol. And then he was ready to go for the invasion of Japan, and he loved Truman because the bomb hit, and he didn't have to go. So, but in the meantime, he'd done an awful lot because he was tremendous, and he was a hell of a pilot. So that's a story there. Very interesting, though. But he was very capable. He could do. Very bright guy. In fact, in the course of his career, he had gone to Harvard. He went to Stanford. UCLA. He was in the first business group. UCLA helped that. He helped organize at SC the master's program for entrepreneurship that they have. They were the first university to get a degree in that. So my brother was quite a guy. So I'm very proud of him.
So now your background, that's the overwhelming question. Everyone asks about your background. I know that you had, recently you were sharing about your international experience, but do you want to share more about your background with everyone?
My background? Well, I've stayed out of jail all my life. That's pretty good, isn't it? Let's see. Well, because I'd worked for this accounting firm by the end of the time, and I had that background, I actually ended up with a public accounting certificate, and I had that background. But let's see, when I got out of the service, and my brother and I started the company, he knew I wanted to become a lawyer. So he insisted that I keep going to school. So I started, I'd had a year at UCLA before, and I had attended in London, the university, let's see, what was the name of it? Trinity College of Music in London. I took a term there. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then studied acting. So anyway,
perfect for sales, right?
Yeah, it was great. Anyway, so Then I had I got my first accounting certificate through USAFI under the University of Michigan by correspondence in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I started doing more accounting. So I got my, let's see. So then my brother insisted that I continue school. So I used to go to school at SC at 7 in the morning to 10. Then 10 I was at Ernest Paper working all day, and then I would do my homework whenever, but I was carrying a full load, 50. So then I kept going to school and working, and so he insisted that I keep going. And then I got into law school at SC, and fortunately, you had different hours you could go out and sell and that. So that's how it started. So then I ended up a lawyer, and I practiced law. And I still have my legal certificate if you want to see it.
and then if,
I have to continue my continuing education. Incidentally, I have to maintain that in order to maintain my license. And I have 2 clients that pay me a retainer. I'm not really doing much practicing. So that's a story there.
And then your international experience as well that you just the other day were sharing with Jimmy and I. That's wonderful that you had that opportunity.
Well, because I was a lawyer and did things, I represented companies, and in other words, I've done some work in Korea, and I've done a lot of work in Singapore, and I still go to Singapore just about annually because I am still chairman of a little public company called Triotech International. And so I had helped that company, and I've also taught international law and finance, the master's program. So I don't know if that's really not, but this is my love here. So
packaging.
Gives it. Oh, well, so what can I tell you? A lot of bull. I don't think you people want to hear all of this. What else could I dream of?
Good stuff.
Good stories, huh?
Absolutely.
Would you write that down so I can remember what I said?
Well, thank you. Please send in your questions. Mr. Wilson and I always love to see what you all write in, and we'll do our best to gather them, put them together, and month after month we'll share his answers with you. So thank you again.
Thank you all. I really appreciate you. I'm sorry to drag you away from something important, but he insists.
Have a good day, all. Thank you.
Bye.